A few days ago, I was asked by someone to help him transfer a zap in Zapier to a scenario in Integromat. And his request was basically to transfer the passing of a feed in Feedly to a tweet in Twitter. So it was a two-step zap from Feedly to Twitter. But the issue he has been encountering lately was that there was no featured image when he posted the links from news articles in Twitter. So there was just the link, the raw link to the article, but no image. And after pasting the short link from his Twitter feed that he got from Zapier into a tool of Twitter, which is the card validator, I noticed that the URL that was shared looked like this one here in my Google Sheet. So a long, I would say dirty URL, starting with google.com, then referencing the article, and then also ending up with some extra metadata from Google. And the problem is that if you copy this URL and you paste it into the validator and you try to validate the card, as you can see, there's no card preview because there is a redirect and the system can't just grab the metadata from the final URL. But if I take a clean URL, and you already have an idea of what we're going to do together, and if I paste it here, and if I run the preview, then I get the image, a nice image, and also obviously the link to the article. Everything ran successfully. So the purpose of my scenario in Integromat is to clean this URL, going from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, and then share this clean URL as a tweet in Twitter. So what we're going to do is set up such a scenario, which starts with an Integromat module, which is an RSS feed parser. I just paste the URL of my Google Alert RSS feed into this module. So to find this URL, you have to go at the bottom of the first email that you will receive from Google, the first alert you will receive from Google, and there is a link to the RSS feed, the URL. You just copy it, paste it into the module, and you're good to go. For the purpose of this test, we will just return one item, so one line, but we could return multiple lines and send multiple tweets. And obviously, if you don't want to send, let's say, 3 tweets in a row, if you've got 3 new pieces of information, 3 new articles, you should go through some kind of planning tool in between, like Buffer or Social Pilot, that you can insert into your scenario. But we will just make it simple for this demo. So we will go from the RSS feed parser to a tweet with a clean URL in Twitter. And as you can see, I've got multiple steps which leverage Google Sheet as a cleaning tool. That's the way I decided to do it. So my first step is to use a type of module in Integromat called add a row in Google Sheet. So I will just add a new row into my sheet. And so this is the way you set it up. So you just choose your spreadsheet, your sheet. You just tell Google that you've got headers if you've got headers. And in the column A, in the first cell, you will add the URL that you grab from the first module, from the RSS module. So just leave the other cells empty. And then we move to our first cleaning step. So it's an update a cell type of module now. You have to just tell Integromat which cell you want to update. So this will be the cell in column B. And the row number has to be dynamic, because if you have multiple items, you will have multiple lines created, multiple rows created in Google Sheet, and you have to change the number reference for each of those rows. So you just use the dynamic row number from your first add a row Google Sheet module. So this one, like this. You append it to the reference, which is always the same, of the column B. And then in the value, becomes a bit trickier. You have to use a formula. This first formula, basically what it does, it removes everything that follows URL equals H in my first URL. So as you can see, it's a very long URL, and you've got here in the beginning, where I just click with my mouse, URL equals H. And you've got to end up with this URL without the introduction of Google, as you can see. And if I double click here, you see my formula, which was created on the fly by the Integromat Scenario. So instead of having a row number, I've got A2, A2, A2. Okay? And we will have the same system for the next one, where it will be B2. So coming back to my scenario, so you can see here the formula. I can share the formula in the comments below, so that you can just use it at your end. Okay. Then we'll go to step number 2 in the cleaning process, where we remove everything that follows the link to the article. So we trim left. And the cell that we will update will be in column C, and the row number will also be dynamic, as you can see. And the formula, which is this one, takes as a reference the column B and also a dynamic row number. And we just search for this text string, and we trim left so that we remove everything that follows the link to the article. And then we have another type of Google Sheet module, which is a get a cell to get a value module. So it will be a very simple one. We just get the value in column C with the right row number, which is also dynamically set based on the first Google Sheet module right here. So we will grab the data in column C, row number 2, for instance. And then we have Twitter. So we just authenticate. Sorry, I'm just adding a module. I don't need that. We go to Twitter. So you connect your Twitter account. That's my Twitter account. You can grab the title if you want from the first module, the RSS feed module. And for the link, you don't take the link from the first module, which is a dirty link. You take the clean one from this module number 6, get a cell of Google Sheet, and you get this clean URL that you can share on Twitter. So what we're going to do is test it with one of the latest items in the RSS feed. So I just load the RSS feed, and I just grab this one, which landed earlier today, just for the test. And what we're going to do is run the entire scenario and then move to Google Sheet to see what happened, and to Twitter to see if we got a clean Twitter card. Let's do this. So first we grab the item from the RSS feed, and then it moves, it's cleaned, and theoretically we will have a nice tweet in Twitter. So let's go to the Google Sheet. First step, the URL, the raw URL from the Google Alerts RSS feed, and then we have removed, as you can see, everything that was before the URL, the link. And for the last bit, we have removed everything that was at the end of this URL, all the references from Google. So we end up with this nice, clean link to the news article. And if I go to my Twitter feed, if I refresh, magic. We have the title and we have the nice Twitter card, as you can see here, with the link to the article. That was the previous one that I did. That was in my Google Sheet. So as you can see, that's the way to solve the problem of, I would say, a dirty URL, a raw URL from a Google Alert RSS feed, and to share a nice Twitter card in Twitter. So when you're done, as I said, what you can do is either leave it to one item and run it periodically and just grab the latest item and share it on Twitter, or you can insert something else inside your scenario if you want to plan multiple tweets. That's also possible. Don't forget to set two things. First, the frequency of this scenario. Don't go too crazy. Don't do 15 minutes because you will use operations in Integromat. You can do every day, for instance. Okay, let's do every day at 8:36, for instance. That's the hour now. Yeah, and you can do okay. And then you have just to activate your scenario, otherwise it won't run. So just activate it like that. That's it. And so once a day, the system will run and populate my Google Sheet and share the clean URL to Twitter. I hope this was useful for everyone. If you have any questions, you can add them in the comments below, and I would be happy to reply as soon as possible. Thanks for your attention.